Today we have Prabhakar Sivaramakrishnan, who is a chartered accountant by profession and who happens to join the same organization as Amit. He succeeded him into the organization as managing director. With both of them having spent close to around 4.5 years together, there were a lot of things which they achieved, and they shared a great space where both organization and personally. So we are looking forward for this interesting episode as a finale for the first season. So hope you guys enjoy it, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done it already. Thank you so much.
Hi Prabhakar.
Hi Amit.
What a fantastic pleasure to have you on my show. I mean, I still feel a little bit nervous to say my show. Thanks to the gentleman Vinay Bayer, this is what I've come into and I'm enjoying it. And more so because today you are going to join it. And as you know, the name of our show is The Missing Link.
Okay.
And that reminds me of when I recruited you as our head of finance. And for me, you were the missing link I was looking for.
Thank you.
I don't know how you felt at that time.
Thank you for that. And since you hung up your boots, and me too, and we have met quite a few times, but
yeah, we do.
But in slightly more different,
pool bar.
in more different settings with a different glass in our hands.
Yes, that's true.
And very happy to be here and be part of this journey of yours, where you're trying to bring out your experience onto the realm of the audience, and that's very nice. I'm really happy to be here on the show, and I distinctly remember the first few times we met before I officially joined Sartorius, which was the company which we worked for not too long, if you remember.
Yeah.
It was about 4.5 years. 2012.
We spent 4.5 years. I still like to say 5 years, but you are right. You are always right with numbers.
Yeah. I guess I have to be. So as the head of finance, and you took some time to make that decision. You and I think somebody from Germany was also involved.
Absolutely.
Maybe that is the reason it took some time to decide. So I was not sure if you're going to pick me or not at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, the one thing which I immediately I'll get into this is that the moment I joined the company and under you were there as the MD then, was the comfort level. I have worked earlier also for about 20 years. I worked in companies outside India.
Absolutely.
And in India as well.
You were what, around 12 years or more outside India? Right?
I was outside India for about 14 years.
In the Middle East and Africa.
In the Middle East and Africa.
You were working for a British company,
British MNC.
Yeah.
And I decided to come back to India.
And then you came back for your family reasons. Then you joined the Tata Group.
Tata Group for about 4.5 years I was there.
Yeah.
And then I came, and something was quite different. The atmosphere that you created, and you and others as well, created, was quite different, and it was much more free and much more comfortable here in this company.
So what do you think was the link or the missing link that made it different?
The missing link,
it can't be just me, obviously.
No, the missing link, I would say, is absolute trust in your co-managers. Absolute trust. I remember that on the first week or the second week when I had to, because our factory was quite far away from the city and we have to travel quite a bit. And I used to be, I'm not used to traveling in India for that
you just
much of
up to 12 years,
14 years outside. And then, so it was very tough, but you made it quite comfortable that time in a different way. But I had to head back to home for some emergency there at home. And then you were in a meeting in the boardroom, and I knocked and said, I have to go now. And the first thing you said is, you don't have to ask me, why are you telling me this? If it's family comes first.
Of course.
If you have an emergency, you please attend to it. You don't need to tell me. So that kind of trust was very good to experience it firsthand. You hear in books and you hear in various other forums, but never practice, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't practice it. So that was completely, it was not only said, it was practiced as well. That was the complete difference, or the thing which I loved the most in this setup of ours.
Memory was never one of my good assets, but vaguely it comes to me, I think I had to kind of force you to accept to have a chauffeur for your car.
Yeah.
If I'm not wrong, right?
Yes, that is why I said among other things. So the drive was very tough, and I thought I can do the drive on my own, but you forced me to have one.
And that was a system that we already had brought in, that all senior managers, we couldn't afford for everybody for sure. And maybe was also not required in my view at that time, honestly. But for the senior managers, I did believe, and that's why I had to force you.
I'm glad I accepted before you changed your mind.
No question of changing the mind. So what else was new to you? I mean, it was also that you came from a very big group, and ours was a relatively very small company, much smaller in organizations, head count as well as numbers and all that. How did you feel about coming to a smaller company? Why did you come? Why did you join me?
The atmosphere in my earlier organization, of course, you know it, but I don't want to name it now. It was quite stifling, at least for me. Yeah. And that is the reason I was on the lookout for a change. And the moment I got this opportunity, I joined. But I had not really looked at the financials of this organization before. We were not doing very well.
We were not doing well. That's why I was looking for the missing link.
Yeah. And touch wood, things changed dramatically within a short time because of the focus on the project business in the right way. It was not going well, and then you and we others, few others.
That happened just after you joined, when the board asked me to take over globally the responsibility of that business. Yeah. And you were for me, I remember, highly instrumental in my being able to do what I had to do as a manager for the global business, for the engineering business. Because you were not one of those typical, and that's what exactly I was not looking for. I didn't want a typical stereotype of a financial genius. Okay.
Bean counter, you are saying.
Sorry?
You're saying bean counter.
That's not my invention. I mean, people use this term, and yes, I didn't want a bean counter alone. Yes, beans had to be counted, and you counted it very well and very fast, for sure. But I was looking for this missing link, as I say, is somebody, who just not also runs the finance of the organization, but also is like a partner to the business, is also like a partner to the other managers, like your peers running operations, sales, R&D, engineering, etc. And I think that was the main reason that, we decided that, yes, you are the right man for the right job. Absolutely.
So actually I have heard, in my earlier organization also, my immediate boss had told me that you should always, even though you're a finance guy, please don't look at it as a finance function. I mean, you have to get out of that, and you should be looking at it as an overall business. That is how you will grow. I think in the earlier company, in Sartorius, I was able to practice it much more effectively.
You had no choice.
No, thinking and theory is one, and practicing is completely different. As you
were even. When we had this trade union, and I had formed a top management team to kind of steer this whole scenario. You were one of the main members of the same team.
I was a member there. I was a member there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you were always you were an expert in downplaying your role, Prabhakar, and probably that's why lovingly I should call you Panditji. But coming back to this point that not only it was a smaller organization with probably a kind of lot happening as change, because in settled organizations, settled businesses, there's not too much of change happening. How was it for you to become part of the leadership? By leadership, I mean people who were not just the so-called management team, but also the leadership across the company, because beyond the people who were heading different functions, there were also a lot of people who, I don't want to name them, maybe they will start laughing watching this show, or feel embarrassed positively. But yet there were many people, who were so instrumental, so important for the change that we were bringing in the company. Not only just the engineering part of the business, but overall, even from a cultural point of view. There were so many people, and I remember that you were very good in establishing the relationships. You know, somebody running supply chain, part of the operation, somebody running R&D, somebody running engineering, including, you know, we had these two big business divisions, or rather three, with three heads of sales, and there were three different, you know, identities, right? So, and you partnered with almost all of them. How was it for you? Because this was very different from what you were doing in the past role that you had, right?
This was completely different, and for us, very, very luckily, I would say that in the Bangalore office, we had almost everything that the company was doing under one roof. And that is, the CEO also had mentioned it earlier. This is the only location where you have everything under the sun in one roof here.
Yes.
So it was very good to meet, though we were not that big in numbers, but we had all the functions. So it was, and by nature, I think I can get along much more easily with people. One of the important things I would say is being open to accept whatever the other viewpoint is. And another important thing I would say is sport. You actively encourage. I have one crazy passion for playing football. Which you keep asking me even now. And I'm doing it even now regularly, on a regular basis.
As we are so fit.
Hopefully. But with all lots of aches and pains here and there,
that's part of life.
That's part of life, and so that also contributed to me being able to connect with a lot of people.
Yeah, you used to. You always did things in a planned manner, although you did not kind of use a kind of hammer to tell everybody that this is what I'm doing, but you always did. And so, talking about your football, I think you guys used to play in this decathlon shot thing, and I knew that Saturday, if I need for something, I have to call Prabhakar, you know, when he's sweating it out probably in the decathlon football place. That was you.
So actually, I mean, effectively or something, or without even probably realizing at that time, but you had mentioned it, and you have said that sport, especially a team sport, helps you to deal with a lot of collaboration and things like that, which are very, very essential in running a business. So that's one of the things which really helped me as well. And
because different people bring in different strengths.
Within a couple of months, if you remember, Amit, I got injured on my ankle, and I was out for a few days. I was wearing a chappal and coming to office.
Which wasn't a problem at all.
At all,
And anyway, you also brought in a very distinct change in my observation at that time, and without speaking anything ill about your predecessor, I do recall that when your predecessor was there, when I used to leave after my late evening meetings with few of the heads of departments, which were normally about finding something different to do or resolving conflicts and stuff like that. And I used to see that your predecessor's light in the cabin was still on, and I also saw that his entire department, quite a big department, the finance and accounting, controlling department, almost everybody was still working. But the moment you came in, and I remember that, I think we used to officially observe a 9:15 to 6 p.m. Working hours, and the company buses used to leave around 6:15 p.m. But suddenly the head of finance started leaving at 5:45. And by 6, everybody in finance controlling was already leaving for home. And this you did it from the day you started. With the same business to be managed, the same financial accounting, controlling function, the same number of people. You didn't change anybody, nothing. But just you coming in changed everything. And you always met every deadline that, whoever wanted. So how did you do it? I mean, what was different?
So we started collaborating, especially much better with the colleagues in Germany, and built up their trust.
Right.
And from day one, if there is any issue in the...
let me interrupt you over there. See, that happened over some period of time. What I'm saying is, from the day one you joined, okay, maybe not the day one you left at 5:45, 15 minutes earlier.
But you put nazar on that, and I couldn't leave after that because of, not from the functional side, from the...
no, that used to be fun. That we will come to later. That was fun. That was fun after 6 p.m. But that we will come to later. But as far as work was concerned, your team always left on time at 6 o'clock. Nobody had to stay back ever once you took over. And this, I remember, happened from the day you joined. So it was something that you carried in with you. It was not something that me or my team or anything else was about. It was something that you carried in. So what was it that made you comfortably?
So I always have this feeling that if you are working too late on a very consistent basis, either you're totally inefficient or you're understaffed.
I remember you used to say that.
So I expressed this to my team also. Yes, you can tell me which one. If you continue to sit late, then we'll have to recruit somebody else.
Yeah.
Or you're not efficient. You please decide and you plan your work accordingly. And boom, the light, and mostly people left on time.
The lights inside their brains came out. That's exactly what I wanted to bring out, because there's something I not only just appreciated as your manager, but I really admired in you. Because this is exactly what leadership, even in hindsight, I can say with full force that this is what you brought in, because this was within you. This was you as Prabhakar who brought it in. This was not something that you had to depend on others. This is how you led it. This was the leader in you, actually. That's what exactly. And yes, after that, sometimes we used to have fun for sure.
Many times. Not only a few. So it is very, very, very difficult to implement all this. So, but you had the freedom in the organization, which was created. The atmosphere, the culture of the organization was such that whatever you have thought of doing, which are the right things to do, could be done very easily and very, very effectively here. Either always look at the business as a whole. Never put yourself in the silo of the function that you are in.
Exactly.
That is something which I maybe learned earlier, but it was theory. Here it was completely put into practice. Never look at it as a function. You always take a decision. First, cover your functional side. Cover your functional side.
That's like oxygen.
Oxygen. But always, all decisions, important decisions, you should take it as a person who is in charge of the organization. I almost thought of myself as a managing director without really thinking like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That is the reason. And as you said, I was very comfortable coming. You would not believe it. I used to be very happy to leave home for the office.
In the morning?
In the morning. Without a problem, I used to leave at 7:45 and be there at 8:45. Timing didn't apply to you, though.
People like you really made me feel guilty, because I never used to reach my office, as you would recall, before 10:30. And my assistant knew that all meetings start only at 11 a.m. because I needed my white time, 10:30 to 11, before I get into any meetings. But yes, you and a few others made me feel very guilty, because you were reaching even 15 minutes or half an hour earlier than the official. But that's another side of it. Do you think that, there were people in the organization at that time when you joined, in the 5 years or 4.5 years, you correct me always, that we spent together, or maybe later, but later we will collate separately. Do you think that we had this challenge of burnout in the organization? Because, I may have been, I don't know, I used to spend more time, not most, but more time in my office and in meetings in the boardroom or whatever. Yes, I did periodically and regularly walk out and meet people, but not as closely maybe as you were seeing. Did we have this challenge of burnout? Because nowadays we hear about burnout is everywhere. People like Coach, a lot of people, go through this pain. So do you think we had that at that time? And we are talking about, just for the audience's benefit, we are talking about a period not very old, long back. We are talking about a period which we spent together is 2012 to 2017 or 2016. Yeah. Did we have this problem?
I did not experience it.
And we were having a count of around 500 or 600 people
at the time you left. Yeah.
And with all the different functions.
So I would say a little slightly differently here. There was no burnout. At least I did not see any burnout. But we grew exponentially.
That's true.
From 2011 or 12 onwards.
Yes.
2012 onwards, the company grew exponentially, and more or less with the same amount of people.
Yes.
We did not recruit massively at all. So there is something which we had done right. Maybe we made everybody much more efficient in the whole organization. Everybody did their part. and the organization became much more efficient, and I would, if I am not mistaken, at least grew 3 or 4-fold within a very, very short time.
Yeah,
so
we have done that in the past also.
We were able to manage that growth very, very easily, and did not see any burnout. I think maybe burnout is when you overwork, or when you, I don't know how it happens in this current context when you ask me that question.
Yeah, well, there is probably a separate episode on burnout that Vinay and I have done together. So I think I've addressed that an audience can subscribe and look into that episode later. So let me bring to the point. You once mentioned about fun after 6 p.m. And so what was this fun about?
Amit, the whole company, including the CEO, knew what was
don't let out all the secrets.
What was it? Yeah. What was in the fridge in Amit's room? Everybody knew that after 6 o'clock, and quite a few times we've had sessions, meetings with all other stakeholders as well, other functional managers. In hindsight, I can see that was your way of strategizing, and also your way of resolving conflicts amongst ourselves as well. So it was good fun. And after 6 o'clock, somehow I think you let go of all your the corporate lifestyle, and you get little more approachable, friendly.
Because we used to normally shift out of my office of the boardroom to the terrace upstairs.
Terrace.
But what I find interesting, even though I was a player in this, what was going on, whatever you call me, an instigator or provocateur, but yet it's so interesting even today after so many years that you use the word fun for what actually was, some others may say, strategy discussions, how to kind of break away blocks and move forward, how to resolve different kinds of conflicts, sometimes in between peers, functional heads, or about also peers with external stakeholders like the trade union, and sometimes we had issues on regulatory issues which were tough, and we had to go through. And these were the topics, I guess, was what you term today as fun. I mean, I find it so interesting.
Yeah. So I think ultimately, when you're out of your zone of the corporate setup and you get into a little bit better or much more relaxed phase, then you can in fact think better, and you will collaborate better also. And
so
you will not have your
inhibitions. So the terrace helped.
Terrace helped a great deal.
The environment over there.
We did not mostly agree with you in many of these issues. Many of the issues we did not agree.
You were a tough nut. I mean, I probably lost more arguments with you than you against me.
So we that is what I meant fun, and we really, none of us actually, I can honestly, I mean, in hindsight say that nobody really regretted going to the terrace or being called to the terrace. We have had several meetings in the terrace, and in fact if you remember, one of the businesses which we were not doing well, of the 3 businesses, one was sold, one was doing great guns, and the other one was not doing well. So if you remember, we have had several discussions with the managers of that division.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we turned that business around.
We actually...
Maybe just after you left or just before, as you were leaving, the business completely turned around.
Yeah.
Or at least it was not as big as the major division, but it was sustaining.
Those sessions, actually, I still label them as workshops, but they were done in the open in the terrace without any whiteboard, but largely by connecting with people's minds and making people come out with ideas and their thoughts, and finally also finding ownership of the ideas that they came out with. Yeah. So I think that's where probably the word fun comes in. Absolutely. Yeah. And there's another aspect, that Vinay and I have handled in another episode, which is about this, we Indians find it so difficult to say no. Yeah. You were not one of those who found it so difficult. I remember it. You have said many no's to me, not only to others. So, but how did it work, for example, particularly in the context that we were running a subsidiary of a German principal, right? And you had to handle a lot of contacts and a lot of, different communication channels with our colleagues in Germany, not only from finance controlling, but also from outside finance controlling. and you visited many, many times for different kinds of meetings. So how did you find this, this power of saying no, or the lack of ability to say no affect what you were handling at that time, what you were steering?
So, saying no does not come naturally to us.
Yeah.
Right? So, in my first appraisal in the UK company MNC that I was working, in the first appraisal, my immediate boss wrote me that everything is fine. This guy is okay, good, but you have to learn to say no.
Oh, okay.
So that is what he mentioned it as the only negative feedback for me.
And you learned it so well,
or
my
it's
God.
a positive feedback for me. Actually, it's a gift, as our other colleagues in Germany used to say. It's a gift which he gave me. So I thought about it and I really practiced it. So if you don't say no, what happens is basically you are not able to easily meet the deadlines, or you are not able to keep up your promises.
And we were running project businesses.
So if you don't say no, then it becomes difficult. I remember saying no to something which you were adamant on, and I stuck to it. When we implemented a financial reporting package across or at least across the manufacturing locations, and India was chosen as the second or third unit here, and it was a consistent package which was rolled out similar to Germany, so that anybody who sees that is able to easily relate to and understand it. It's not Greek and Latin for them. And you wanted some changes in that.
Yeah.
So
because I always wanted
I said no. We said no.
Yeah, you said no, exactly.
No. And we did not. Maybe we made a small compromise for you, and then
it was offline.
One or two slides that you wanted, we put it after thank you as the addendum to the slide.
Yes.
But we stuck to our thing, and then if you don't say no, then and you mess up the main purpose of the reporting, then it gets diluted. Yeah. So you have to learn to say no.
I recall what you this was about. This after the thank you was because I wanted the entire revenues generated out of the Indian organization and not just what was captured in the P&L. Yeah. Because there were businesses also that we were doing which was not through the Indian P&L but through the German P&L, but still for the Indian market. So I wanted our sales organization to get the credit for it, or rather to take the ownership for it. And those were the two slides after your thank you slide in the financial reporting. Now I remember it. Thank you so much. Okay, great.
Sorry to interrupt there. Yeah. One thing which I would say is you can easily say no if you are comfortable with what you are doing. And as you mentioned earlier, and how did people get home at 6 o'clock? And it was not so easy in the first 2 or 3 visits when I had been to Germany to meet with our colleagues. It was really tough, and they gave me a very, very tough time. But once they realized, so that's how working with, and I have had the experience of working with other nationalities from other parts of Europe in my earlier organization. So it was quite easy for me. So once you say something, you stick to it and you follow that, they'll learn to trust you. Yeah. And once they start to trust you, then you can be much more, focused, and you can say the correct thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So that
you can also then start having fun.
Yeah.
Because then you develop the trust to such a level where you can, kind of little bit expose your other vulnerabilities or other interests, for example. And sometimes, of course, since we are all still working in the same organization or same business context, even in those so-called non-typical, stereotypical official settings, we still actually create value. Because even sitting in a bar also, you're still discussing about your company. Yeah. How many times we have tried to say, well, we will not discuss about the company or business, but at the end of the day, we end up always discussing.
After 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you end up.
And this happens to everybody. I don't think it was special to us. I think it is common because the mind is occupied with what you are doing as a leader, as an executive, as a manager for a company. You are so deeply connected with what is happening, what is kind of halting or coming as blocks for it, or for what should happen, where we want to go. And when four minds, join together to bring a team forward, an organization. It does. That is how we achieve so much of growth, exponentially or not, over many stretches of time. And yeah, great, fantastic, Prabhakar. So thank you very much for coming in. Any thoughts as on today? How do you see the cultures having changed because of the times we live in, because things are a little bit different in the last maybe 10 or 20 years? How do you see that? Few thoughts from your side.
I believe that any organization has to have its own unique culture, and that is what will bring in the employees and will give them the belief that they are doing it right and they are working for a good company. So on the values that they believe in, or what their concepts are. And every organization will have. I'm sure that you cannot have similar culture in all organizations. It will be different. And see, we have spoken about it earlier also. It is up to the leaders to set examples of what they are doing, which becomes ultimately the culture. And
do you think that becomes more difficult because today a lot of people work on a virtual connect, work from home, they don't get to...
Definitely, it's a tough thing to be doing it when you're working from home and when you're not doing it face to face. At least for people who believe in this, that face to face connect is much better. I believe that, I still believe that. And preserving that culture is very, very difficult, and it's going to be very tough going forward to preserve the culture of the organization. It's going to be a big challenge for the leaders here of today.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I hope this conversation and also the missing link that what I'm trying to do together with Vinay, for example, is essentially to nudge and push a little bit so that people take those things away, and in their own lives, for their own happiness or satisfaction, they also nudge the boundaries a little bit more. That otherwise may not be so easy to do it. But if I believe that if I'm convinced that some change should happen, even if what I want is say on a scale of 1 to 10 to reach 10. But if I'm convinced, I will at least cross 3, 4, 5, and 6, and one day maybe 10. But if I'm not even convinced, if I'm not even exposed to such thoughts, for example, of what creates a culture, what creates, forget exponential growth, but what creates growth per se itself. Okay, how leadership is not just about the management, but also about individuals across an organization. Okay, irrespective of their age, function, whatever it is. I think people will only become poorer and poorer. So the way forward, I think the missing link is about discovering that, essence of what is good for you as an individual is also good for the company, if not always the other way around, for sure. And thank you very much, Prabhakar, for coming in, and thank you for being the missing link then, and also kind of reinforcing the different kinds of missing links that we are trying to bring out and share with the audience.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure to meet you, and I'll be there whenever you need me. If at all we have some other discussions.
Absolutely.
We have had several discussions, and we can continue them on the screen.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Really, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Prabhakar.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Amit and Prabhakar. This ends our season with this conversation which we had, which brought in a lot of essence of his career, which they both shared space with, and the kind of atmosphere which was created in the organization. I hope by bringing this entire episodes or podcast to you guys, what we initially thought was we will try to bring in that missing link which everybody will benefit from, because today access to data is quite easy and we can all get inputs the way we want it. And what matters the most is when we bump into some essence of life, we take a cue out of it and try to implement within ourselves. That's how things have been for most of us. We come across situations, we take a learning out of it, and then go about implementing it further to that. This all happens to most of us, but the decision which we take, saying that I'm going to take a leaf out of it and I'm going to implement, that is the call which we all work upon. Even though knowledge was there pretty much everywhere, we decided at that junction when we got stuck or when it mattered the most to us. I hope the essence which we brought out, be it topics like the burnout, building trust, mid-career crisis, the art of saying no, or even for that matter, knowing your coach Amit and how to engage a coach or even opt a coach. All these things we brought up, understanding and thinking that it will add value in our season. So do let us know in the comment section that what kind of topics you would like to hear out and get solutions for, or what you think are the missing links in today's day and age which you want Amit to help you out with. Thank you once again. Do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon.